ngazviende zviende zviende zvibvenda ngazvibviswe zvigobviswa zvigobviswa.
Kwanga kune mumwe murume zita rake Chaminuka aigara pachitungwiza munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. Here baba imi mapambe pfumi, here baba imi mapambe pfumi. Anga ari mufemberi mukuru weZimbabwe akataura achiti kuchauya vamwe vanhu vanenge vasina mabvi zopamba nyika yeZimbabwe nenguva isipi takaona vachiuya munyika yedu Zimbabwe yachizvarwa yakapfuma, vamwe vafundisi, vamwe vavhimi nevamwe vaida zvicherwa munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. Iyi yanga iri nzira yekupinda nayo munyika yedu yeZimbabwe yachizvarwa yakapfuma. 1887 Robula turiti, 1888 Mopati turiti, Koreiri zvakare ratikonzesheni kufamba kwenyika kwatotanga vakomana tichiona. 1889 rimbe tikonzesheni Koreiri zvakare zinyara inzirodzi rakapiwa Royal Charter raivoka maBritish. Iri ranga riri gwaro raimupa simba rekufamba nyika yababa.
Tine mazuva mazhinji tisipo, pamusha pedu hapana mufaro. Baba namai vanotichema hatisiko. Tinongorara senherera, nherera, nherera, nherera. Mai nherera, nherera, tichingorara senherera. Tinongodyawo senherera, nherera, nherera, nherera. Mai nherera, nherera, tinongodyawo senherera.
An illegal settlement could have sprouted just outside the United States Embassy in Westgate, where allegedly 42 people have been camped there in 2 tents for close to 3 years in an anti-sanctions crusade. Children have been made and born there. In the absence of proper infrastructure like toilets and potable water, they are forced to bath in a stream close to the embassy. They cook and eat where they sleep, drink from the same stream they bath from. The Broad Alliance Against Sanctions have also engaged in an ambitious farming project to sustain themselves. They grow onions and cabbages on the land. In the advent of COVID-19, the 42 who stay outside observe no social distancing because they stay in just 2 big tents that do not have isolation facilities. We took time to hear their voices, to understand their living conditions and why they are doing what they are doing. These are their voices, their heart and soul voices.
I want us to talk about your general warfare here. How are you living here?
It's not easy being here. It's a war. It's an economic warfare against the Americans. Just like in any war, you cannot afford to live decent. I think you can see that we are sleeping, we are staying in tents, which is a bit abnormal. We don't have any bathing facility. I don't know if you were shown where we took a bath.
No, you could show us where you
Yes.
took a bath. Yeah.
Just let's take a walk right there. So that clearly shows that we are not living that very normal life, but we are in a warfare. It's something that we took upon ourselves to say we need to free our country through what this the economic situation that America subjected us to. So this is our part. If you can, we can just come.
Sure.
But some use it before.
So you bath here?
We bath here. That's why we take a bath. But
Both women and men bath here?
yes, and we take turns. If a man comes here, then one has to be on guard to tell her that no, ladies, you can't go there because what a man is taking a bath there. If it's a lady taking a bath here, then another lady there has to be on guard, telling her that someone is taking a bath. So it's not that easy here, what we are doing. And it's not like we have got a direct benefit to say at the end of the day or at the end of the month, having done this, someone will bring us $2 to fend for our children. No. Rather, we have to engage ourselves into what? Into income generating projects that we are terming they are what? They are sanctions busting. And it is our call to every citizen here in Zimbabwe. But let's utilize, let's make use of what we have. If you have got a piece of land, maybe your stand, which is about the 200, 300 square meters, and you manage to construct a 3-roomed house, put other beds for vegetables so that you can sell and you counter this what? These sanctions.
We get our water from the stream down there. We've been here for 3 years and we've never had anyone suffering from any diarrhea or disease. When our forefathers went to war, they used to drink water from the rivers and any other source of water that they came across. And this is a war. We will take anything that is at our disposal. And what we know is we'll never get sick from that water.
Timbori mama onions timboita small projects tokuti tisazoomerwe kuona kuzotengesawo maonyens kana aibva tonawo mari yekutengawo zvinhu zvatinenge tisina.
Samunovatengesera kuvanhu vapi
maonyens? Vanhu vanongouyawo panapa tinongodisplayawo paroad apa. Vanongouya vachitenga, vanenge vachida vanomira vachimira. Even varungu vacho vanombouya vachitenga futi.
Samunongotengesa maonyens chete?
For the meantime tangorimawo maonyens aya. Tine mavheji aya, pane garden riri kusero rine mavheji negreen maize. Sezvo tine mvura tokwanisa kungodyara chibage techingochidiridza. Togona kuzongopota chigocha chibage. Kana tashayawo lunch dzimwe nguva sometimes hatingazobike sadza musikati, togona kungogocha chibage kana kungokanga maputi nenzimbe idzi.
Asi pakutenga ipapo vanoya zvakanyanya sei kuti vazotenga chibage ichocho kana senguva ino mavheji nemaonyens?
Vanouya zvavo but kwete sterek. Isi tinotozongobuda taakupindawo kana mudzimba mune vanhu muyamwe chinovatengesera. Vamwe vanozongokweretawo titozopai mari vozongoyawo nemari yacho. Ndomaitira tinoita. Saka apa ndoota sosi yedu ndopatowana mvura apa. Ipere mvura iyi tichingochera ipapo. Apa ndo pane mvura yedu panapa.
Asi iri safe here mvura iyi for kunwa nekubikisa?
Isi tinongomwa but hatina kumboona chakaipa kuti dai kuri kunzi yatirwarisa dai pamwe tisiri panapa. Ndo mvura yatinomwa iyoyi. Saka tinongochera kudai so. Kuchera mvura. Ndakutoita sei? Ndakutodirika. Sandika apa ndakaisa mbeu yemakabeji. Pane makabeji aripo. Sida makabeji pano. Sepana. Ndakaisa makabeji. Ndatodiridza hangu makuseni. Ndasina kunyazopedza. Apareka ndingopedzisa pandanga ndasiya.
Saka kuti uswa iyi munenge makaita uswa.
Ukana uchiisa maseeds kana mvura haifaniri kuenda direct pasi pamaseeds paipa because inoita sei inobva yayeredza maseeds aya. Saka inofanira kuenda through pamauswa apa ichidonha mbichana ichisvika nesunlight kuitira kuti maseeds asarohwe nezuva. Saka makabeji aya paachaita onda pane mombe yembambaira apa ndopanichazoisa mbete yemakebeji papa.
Saka zvinoti pane mbambaira?
Pane mbambaira.
But you have been here for 3 years now, and I understand there are children who are actually born here. Is that correct?
That's true.
How old are the children who are born here now?
They are on different ages. We've got one, I think it must be around close to a year. One is 2 years something. And the other one, I'm not sure. You know, with babies and timings, men, we are not good. But we witness that. And we witness the miscarriage again here, which is obviously to me is because of harsh weather conditions. We didn't have these days. We only got them recently. Otherwise, we could.
So how do you make the babies in this place? I mean, the tent that doesn't have petitions. How do you make the babies?
The bedding.
The babies. I mean, how do you?
The babies.
Yeah, how do you?
Oh, maybe I responded wrong.
Yeah, how do
It's
you
not
make?
it's not like the result of the babies was an inside manufacture. No, it wasn't like that. Some people here are married. All of them were not fathered here.
Okay,
Yes. So it's
the
not like
pregnancies were delivered here, but not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, someone who feel the effect of sanctions back home and to say, I was married or I'm married, and if my man gets paid, he doesn't come home with what? With the money. At the end of the day, I'm nothing. Let me join the struggle. They come here pregnant. So we welcome every person, pregnant, disabled, vulnerable. ZANU-PF MDC, Marange Zesa Supku. We welcome everyone.
They go to school and they are very safe in this weather. We've got blankets, we've got everything to keep them warm. Yes, we're staying in a tent, but we do have blankets, we have jerseys, we have everything that everyone at home has. So they are safe. Sanctions have already deprived that from them. Imagine you are a parent and you are not working, yet you are educated, but industry is closed because of sanctions. You try to do business, but the more we say Zimbabwe is open for business, it's just like Zimbabwe is closed for business because of sanctions. So their future is already doomed. Their life is already doomed because of sanctions. So you can't be telling us about them being deprived of their livelihood when they already been deprived by these sanctions.
So
I see you have a plot of sugar cane here. I witnessed some kids enjoying the cane.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you start this plot here?
Yes, we started it. When we came here, there wasn't any piece of sugar cane or any plantation. But it's one of our favorite. Personally, it's one of my favorite. And if you have to look that other side, I will show you. There is another a plantation, which we put it recently. So it's something that we need to keep motivated. We don't have the money to go and buy sugar cane. Something that we can do on our own. That's why we had to put even the maize field.
You put the maize field.
Yes. Yeah. That's why we had to put even the project that we are running. We've got a nursery of cabbages.
Onions and cabbages, yes.
Cabbages around 3,500, onions about 1,000 something. So in 3 weeks' time, if you are to pay a visit, this whole place will be clean, super green. So we are actually farmers who doesn't own land. Because our land is still owned by these people, the Americans, those who were lucky to remain with. Some we repossessed. But we are saying we are equally Zimbabweans, and we are calling for those who are still home to come and join this fight. It's our generational fight.
Are you winning?
We are winning. We set this objective to say we are fighting sanctions on our own. And you can't set an objective to win. In actual fact, you play or lose. So we are winning. That's why we witnessed Infrastructure Development Bank was removed from sanctions. Agribank was also removed from sanctions. So to that effect, we can see that progress is taking place. So this is our seedbed for cabbages.
Okay.
You see, germination is around I think you can have a look. The germination, it can be around 98%. So,
what type of cabbages are these ones?
Drumhead.
Drumhead, or those ones who?
The big ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So You're going to give me 2 of these after they grow to bust sanctions at my house.
We don't donate so that you bust sanctions. You join the workforce so that you bust what? We don't want donor syndrome in Zimbabwe. That's why we are fighting to say America mustn't be donating to us daily. We are hardworking. They must free our economy so that we work for ourselves. We've got minerals, we've got our land to do the farming. But if you are captured with these sanctions, we won't witness any result.
It's difficult, but we are managing. We're just following the COVID-19 guidelines. We put on our masks, we sanitize, and we try by all means to avoid contact from outside. It's like we are usually here at the camp, and that's where we spend much of our time.
Ayo mabanana ayo takangosvika wari pa.
Munombomadya kana tinokwanisa kumatengesa one kana mune makuitira imimi kuti muwane chekudya?
Tita kuitira isusu kuti wane chekudya. Kuzi vamwe vanhu vanongobvawo neuku vachingoya vachingobawo mabanana acho vachingodyawo. Saka kuti uzotora sitoku yekuti ndoda kuzotengesa panozogona kunetsa. Unogona kuti uda kutengesa kusvika pasina kana paine bhanchi rimwe ranga rakuibva riya unosvika pamwe ratotorwa munhu akutonopfimbika kumba kwake. Mararamira tiri kuita panapa nedzimwewo nzimbe. Sanika vanhu vanongouya vachitema nzimbe kaidzi. Saka isusu tinozobvisa kana mbeu dzai dzinenge dzadimburwa nevanhu todyara kana musaidhi memabhedzi edu emaonyezi tobva taisa nzimbe kunge dzari apa dzakarara apa idzo imbeu dzatakadyara idzodzo dzekuti takutoziva kuti next season takutodya nzimbe idzodzo.
Saka munozongoshandisa kudya chete kana kuti munokwanisa kudzitengesa kuti nzimbe idzodzo?
Isi tinodya titengese izvo. Totengesa maonyezi atinenge maonyezi, makabeji. 3,000 makabeji. Kunge ndakasida apa kapa. Panofanira kubuda 3,000. Because pane imwe bhedhi yacho iri paseri apo.
Katikati pabuda se 3,000 iwayo anokwanisa kukusustaina izvo nguva yakaita sei?
Tichitengesa nekudya. It all depends kuti panapa because pana vamwe vanhu vanouya vachienda. Saka vamwe vanhu vanogona kusvika takuda kubika sapa tinongowedzerawo makabeji acho tongobika todya tese. Ndo mararamira tiri kuita. Hatingazoti vanhu varipo pana bosi takawanda we about 200 and something. Saka munhu akangouyawo arimo muprogramu yedu hatingambomunyime chikafu anobva atongodyawo nesu. Ende zvoshuwa iye munhu iye kumba kwake pamwe zvinenge zvichitomunetsawo. Anoziva kuti ane programu yakajoinawo kuita kuti upenyu hwake huende kumberi. Nemhuri yake anouyawo panapa tongobetserana kudya zvatinenge tarima. Iye anogona kutouyawo tombotibetserawo kudiridza. Totodiridza tese because anenge achitoziva kuti tiri kuita sei tichazokohwa. Iye anozowanawo kudya.
Saka mune balance diet or munongorelaya kumakabeji waya nemavheji atinenge muchirima?
Tatengesa kana maonyezi edai tokwanisa kuenda kunotengawo nyama. Totenga nyama toona kuti akabeji ayanyisa totengawo nyama kana huku angowo $5 izvezvi tobika pamoto peda.
Idzi ndimo makadzidyara kana kuti makatongopamukauya dzanga dziripo?
Takasvika dziripo nzimbe. Saka takungodzimaintenawo. Nechibage ichi takarima chibage.
Ndima makarima chose chibage?
Takarima chibage. Dzitoripo idzi but hai zvinezvi vanhu vanotanga kutodzidya nguva yacho isati yakwana right, but dzine dzakungotapira chete. Dzine dzakungonaka but vazhinji vamwe vanodzidya havazodzoke nekuti vanenge vaita nyon'o. Vanenge vachingotema vasingazive kuti nzimbe dzacho dzaibva here kana kuti hadzina. Pamwe inenge ingori nzara inenge ingorimo muvanhu. Vanhu havasi kuenda kumabasa mashoma. Saka vanhu vawana chekudya vanongodya.
Imi madzikuitisewo nyon'o here pamunenge muchidya dzakadai?
Isusu tine pano maiziya matsvagira matembera tichiita nzimbe idzi kana ndezekuti isi tinonyakutsvaga kunyatsoona kuti nzimbe yaibva yasvika. Manje vamwe outsiders vanenge vachiuya anongosvika nekungonoti kwati bozi anenge achitya bozi haasi kuziya nezvepanapo kuti pakamira sei. Munhu ari kungopfuurawo zvake achienda. Saka isusu tonyatsoziva kuti nzimbe yaraipi tonyatsotema nzimbe chaidzo. saka vanenge vachipfuura nokutya kunguti yaona obva angomhedu robva abuda obva iri
tinachiti munomu muladies tent ndo munorara vakadzi ndo matinobikira futi and vakadzi vanorara munomu varipo izvezvo around 16 saka tongorara panapa as you can see vamwe pabed vamwe pamamatresses akavharwa nemablankets apa. Okay, kunoku ndo kutent yedu yevakomana ndo kunorara vakomana and like I mentioned the other tent is for ladies and we also use it as our kitchen. This one inongoshandiswa as bedroom revakomana chete. Here at Borderlands Against Sanctions, we are carrying out sanctions-busting activities. Currently, we are mainly focusing on horticulture, and so far we've got about 1,000 onions in these seed beds. Then we also have about 3,000 cabbages that we nest. Last year we had about 30,000 plants for onions, and we harvested them around October. So we are anticipating to actually harvest more than 6,000 heads of cabbages when we get into the rainy season. And we encourage every family and every household to practice sanctions-busting measures so that they can be cushioned in these harsh conditions that we are experiencing as a nation due to sanctions.
So show us where you fetch the water. Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
But wouldn't this be considered an illegal settlement?
Sorry?
Wouldn't this be considered an illegal settlement?
We applied for staying here, so we can't say it's an illegal settlement.
Who did you apply to?
Home Affairs. So we have got clearance to stay here for as long as sanctions are there. So it's not an illegal settlement. Neither would we want to stay in an illegal settlement because we all have homes, we have houses, but because of sanctions, we are camped here.
So what do you do for entertainment except farming?
We don't do farming for entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
We do farming as a business. For entertainment,
I see you don't have electricity.
we don't.
You don't have televisions.
We don't.
So what do you do for entertainment?
Usually we sing. We've got our traditional ngoma, mbira, so we sing most of the times. It's also a way of demonstrating against these sanctions.
We are here just outside the United States Embassy in Westgate, Harare, where Broad Alliance Against Sanctions has set up here for almost 3 years, demonstrating outside or picketing outside the United States Embassy, demanding the removal of sanctions. They get their water from here. They say they get their drinking and bathing water from here. They started a project to sustain them, keep body and soul together. They call this project an anti-sanctions-busting move. And they are committed, they say, that they will not leave this place until and unless sanctions are removed. But the Americans are adamant. They say they will only remove sanctions if the government of Zimbabwe plays ball. If the government of Zimbabwe stops human rights abuses, respects the rule of law, and ensure property rights are protected. They have also said they do not have economic sanctions against Zimbabwe, but instead individually targeted sanctions against the ruling elite.
We've been camped here at the US Embassy since the 29th of March 2019. After we realized that it's us, the ordinary citizens, who are being affected by the sanctions, not the so-called targeted ZANU-PF and government officials. So we took it upon ourselves that since we're the ones who are mostly affected by these sanctions, we're the ones who should take an active role in calling against these sanctions.
You know, the campaign started way back when Zimbabwe was put under sanctions by the United States of America, the European Union, you know, and the British. So from the day Zimbabwe was put under sanctions, under illegal sanctions to be specific, people of Zimbabwe, peace-loving and patriotic Zimbabweans, started to campaign against sanctions. And this fight was amplified by Tsvangirai himself in 2008 when he told the world that Zimbabwe needs aid and not sanctions. It was also amplified by Tendaibit in 2013. They called for removal of sanctions. So this is a fight for almost everybody.
Okay, around 42 people stay here permanently. And then we have more than 200 members who come and go. We are staying in their homes while they are here. We've got more than 200 members who are staying at home, but they come here frequently. But the ones who are staying here permanently, it's 42 people. They have houses. For example, I own 2 houses in Bulawayo, and I rent a house here in Harare. But I'm here just because of the anti-sanctions movement.
So who's staying, who's taking care of your house while you are here? That was the question.
Okay, family members. For example, I have my grandmother and my daughter are the ones who are at home.
They don't miss you?
They do. I sometimes go maybe after 2 or so months just to visit them. We're not even worried at all. This is a warfare, and it doesn't take a day to win a war. It may take years, but will still be.
It's who they are, but that doesn't stop us from campaigning against sanctions. If there's something wrong, the wrongdoer may not be ready to reform, but at least people are driving the message. By each and every day, they're hearing the message. And I think last year, you know, when there were some violent clashes in America over the death of George Floyd, it took the War Security Advisor of America to blame Zimbabwe and China for causing violent protests in China. So it's in America, I mean, it's because of the efforts, little efforts being put by patriotic Zimbabweans. They remind America of its ruthlessness by each day.
We have had 2 meetings with, actually 3 meetings with the previous ambassador, Brian Nichols. And we're still willing to have meetings even with the American president, His Excellency Joe Biden. What we want to tell the Americans is that it's not a case that God blessed Zimbabwe with natural resources, because we know that that is the main mantra why they put these sanctions. All these other issues that they talk about, Jana, rule of law, democracy, those are secondary issues. It's not a case that God blessed us. Instead, they should just remove these sanctions and work well with us on our own conditions, not to try and impose things on us. We have never interfered with American issues, whether there is violence or anything in America. We have never interfered. So why should they interfere with Zimbabwean issues? They should know that there is no absolute democracy anywhere in the world. And they should let us as Zimbabweans define democracy in our own context. And actually, they talk of rule of law. Rule of law can never be defined in precise terms. So they should let us as Zimbabweans define rule of law in our own terms and in our own context. And as of the land issue is the big issue. what they should know is that this land belongs to Zimbabweans. It belongs to us, the Zimbabweans. It's our ancestral land. We have never interfered with American land or any issues to do with America. Actually, we don't own any land in America. So they shouldn't want to claim a piece of land in Zimbabwe. The land which the white people looted from our ancestors, built it using resources that they stole from our ancestors and using the forced labor of our ancestors. Honestly, there is no justification for these sanctions.
You said you have had a meeting with the Americans. Have you had a meeting with your own government as to what it could also be doing to ensure that these sanctions go away?
Yes, we have had several engagements with different government officials, and we are seeing that on their side there is progress. They are trying to address some of the issues that the Americans state as the reasons why they put sanctions. For example, they've compromised to compensate the former colonial farmers, of which is something that we as ordinary citizens are against, because how can you compensate someone from stealing from you? It doesn't make sense to us. But anyway, as a way of trying to appease the Americans and the Western powers, the government is compromised to pay the former colonial farmers. We have seen that there is the Auditor General's report, and we see former and even other government officials being brought into courts, which is something that the Americans were stating as a reason for putting sanctions. We are seeing a lot of things, a lot of reforms, removal of POSA and AIPA, which is the other reason why that was being quoted by the American ambassador is the reason why they put sanctions. So in other words, I think our government is doing enough. It has actually done enough to try and appease the Western power so that they can remove sanctions. We can talk of the Motlanthe Commission. The government has done just more than enough to try and appease these Western powers. I was saying I'm actually worried that we haven't heard anything from the US Embassy South Africa with all the noise that has been in South Africa since last week. I think if it was Zimbabwe, a lot of noise could have been made. If we could have heard something even from America straight, but we're not hearing anything from the US Embassy South Africa, especially concerning these demos and other human rights violations that we are seeing on televisions. And I think that shows that there is selective application of these sanctions in the so-called terms of rule of law and democracy from the Americans. Okay, those people are demonstrating and they are looting from shops, they are making noise, and that's why the Army of South Africa had to intervene. If I still remember very well, when our very own people were demonstrating and looting and beating other people up in the streets, our army intervened, but the Americans said that was wrong, that was human rights abuses. So we're saying the selective application of these so-called human rights abuses when it comes to America, because we haven't heard them saying anything. Yes, definitely. Every war has got its results, and we think we're going to win this war. We have a lot of sympathizers. We have a lot of people that have been directly affected by these sanctions, ordinary citizens like us, and they support us wherever they can. For example, we got this tent from a white guy. He's American by origin, but he owns companies in Zimbabwe, and his company has been affected by sanctions. And he's supporting our move from the day we started camping here. We have other white people and black people who are supporting this movement. And I think if you remember, at one point in time, we camped here with two white ladies. We're also saying sanctions must be removed.
No, the president said stop mourning about sanctions. No, mourning and demonstrating are two different things. When the president said stop mourning about sanctions, he simply said that we have sanctions in place, yes. But as a country, we must devise strategies and ways to try and counter these sanctions, to try and undermine the sanctions, so that the effect of sanctions will not be felt by Zimbabweans the same way it was happening in the past. So he simply said, stop mourning, muchishona usachema chema. Of course, we are in a crisis, we have a problem, but we need solutions. That's what the president said. And as part of his efforts, he tried the re-engagement and engagement policy. He put that in place, thinking that maybe Americans are genuine. If they say remove this or that, we remove sanctions. The president has tried all that, but now we are discovering that they are hypocrites. It has not failed yet, because a police is usually ushered in for a term of office for the president. So the only day we shall say re-engagement has failed. But actually it cannot fail, because we are having results from other countries. This is only about America. Britain, EU, IMF, they are forthcoming, but because these Americans are just, they are hypocrites, and they are barbarians. So we expect very little from them. But at least efforts are being put in place, and they know that. For as long as illegal sanctions are still in place, for these people are sending a message. And to be honest, if you had an opportunity to interview the ambassador, or maybe the administration of the United States of America, they can tell you the impact of this demonstration. They are feeling it on a daily basis. Only that they do not have a way of dismissing these people. This is why sometime last year they'd offered these guys, to pay them, to buy them vehicles, buy them houses, so that they dismiss from this place. So in terms of international politics, this is a clear message. And they are feeling the heat, they are feeling the impact on a daily basis. Only that they do not have a solution.
Who exactly offered them?
The ambassador himself, the current ambassador. And it's on record. And to this day he has never denied, the allegations to say, yeah, they did, because, this is not about themselves here. It's about the whole nation. We are witnessing, as I said earlier on, that Tsvangirai himself, when he got an opportunity to be in government, he started to feel the impact of sanctions. And he went as far as Canada, Australia, lobbying for removal of sanctions. But also held a conference in Canada to say, please, remove sanctions. So if Tsvangirai and Tendai Bit discovered the effects of sanctions, it simply means sanctions are real. And sanctions, they impact, they are against the growth of our economy. As was said by Tsvangirai and Tendai Bit.
Ndakauya pano pa American Embassy. Chichemo chedu ndechekuti dai takona kubvisirwa masanction. Nokuburikidza nekuti masanction ane targeted people vari kupiwa, but ndiri kuona kuti ivo havasi kuaffectwa nemasanction, asi kuti isu vanhu zvedu tisi tiri kuaffectwa nemasanction. Saka chishuwo changu ndechekuti dai masanction abviswa, kuti tigone kufamba kwakasununguka, kuti zvinhu zvigone kutiitira zvakanaka. Nokuti apa kutomesera kwaari kuita zviri kuratidza sekuti panorwa mukono utswa ndo hunotsokodzerwa. Nokuti ava vari targeted havasi kukwanisa kuve vari kusafa kuburikidza nemasanction. Ndo chishuwo changu chakaita kuti ndisvike pano paAmerican Embassy tichikumbira kuti dai vativhisirawo masanction, nokuti ari kuaffecta isu maordinary people.
Nyaya yemasanctions iri kutirwadza zvakanyanya. Kunyanya inini ndakazvarwa 1964. Takararama upenyu hwatakararama nguva tichakura. Taidya chingwa chine majarini, mukaka, asi baba vangu vaingoshandawo muhurumende. Asi konezvi nhasi unoyu furikidza nemasanctions, ukatarisa munhu ari muhurumende chaiye ari kushanda kana palevel raishanda vana baba vedu vachatichengeta. Vana havachazivi chingwa, havachazivi majarini, mari dzacho hamino zvadzangoita. Ende tiri kunzwa kuti isusu zvinhu zvedu zvinobuda muno muZimbabwe zviri kutorambidzwawo kuti zvitengeswe kumamarkets uku, kuti nyika irambe ichifamba mune zvakanaka. Saka masanctions ari kutikanganisa zvakanyanyisisa zvisingaiti. Ini ndakashandawo muhurumende kubvira pandakabuda, ndikawanawo pension yangu. Ndichitarisa vanhu vakabuda nguva yemasanctions asati aveko, waitoona kuti munhu akatoritaya anokwanisa kutenga imba, anokwanisa kutsvaga mota yake. Asi zvinezvi hakusina zvese izvozvo kupfurikidza nemasanctions. Upenyu hwedu hwakaoma. Saka isi tiri kungoti America ngaibvise masanctions akaisa, nepamusana pevhu redu ratakatora. Ambuya nehanda vakafa vatoita chitsidzo chekuti ivhu iroro rinofanira kutorwa. Saka iyoyo hondo yatakaita yazoita kuti maAmericans achitirwisa, vachitirwisa zvavo vasina zvombo, asi marwisiro avari kutiita nenyaya yevhu redu ratakatora. Tiri kurwadziwa, tiri kurwadziwa. Vana vedu vatakatozvara havatombozivi kuti chizi inonaka sei. Isi takadya chizi asi baba vedu vachihora mari shoma shoma, asi pangotanga masanctions takaona zvinhu zvese zvakaoma. Saka aiwa masanctions ari kutiuraya.
Ndinonzi Calvin Chitsungi, co-founder and chairperson Broader Lines Against Sanctions. Broader Lines Against Sanctions is a grouping of ordinary citizens who are camped here at the American embassy for push on the removal of sanctions which are imposed on us as Zimbabweans. These sanctions are proving to affect the ordinary rather than what is said maybe by other political parties. It's very clear to us that it's a lie, or a naked lie, if I may put it, to say these sanctions are targeting individuals, whereas the effects are proving to be negative and impacting much on the ordinary citizens. So we had been camped here for quite some time now, for 830 days, in push for this removal of sanctions. Tiri panapa takaita engagements akati one day with the American government. We had about 3 engagements with them. The first engagement, they came to us and asked us as to why we are camped here at the American embassy and what were our objectives, of which we pointed it very clear to them that we are here for removal of sanctions. And we demanded to know as to why these sanctions were put on us. The Americans officials from the embassy pointed at us that these sanctions were put on place because of certain issues like the land issue, to which they were saying the way the land was invaded in Zimbabwe around 99, 2000, somewhere there, was not done properly. On our response to that, it's not like we witnessed the land invasion around that time, 1999 and 2000. Rather, land invasion in Zimbabwe was witnessed around the 1890, 1880, when the white people came, took our land from our ancestors, and there was no compensation to that. So to that effect, what we only realized, or what transpired around 1999 and 2000, was land repossession. Zimbabweans only repossess their land, what is rightfully what ours. We don't own any land, be it in America or Britain, but rather they insist in owning land here in Zimbabwe. So it's one of the issues. They talked about the deployment of soldiers in DRC, to which personally, or from the organization's perspective, we never witnessed any Zimbabwean going to DRC war. Rather, Zimbabwe is a member state to SADC, and SADC deployed its soldiers to assist its member state. So what we witnessed is like the SADC forces went to DRC and assisted that country as per norm. Just like the same way United Nations assisted in Darfur. It's not like we are having maybe South African soldiers or the police going to Darfur. Rather, it's United Nations on that mission. So it would be wrong for the Americans to put sanctions on that perspective. So there are a lot of things that they mentioned. But to that effect, we are saying sanctions that are hitting the ordinary citizens, which have got no role to play in those changes, rather than the government talking to each other on a way. The other engagement we did was with the American ambassador, Mr. Brian Nichols. Mr. Brian Nichols pointed to us that their government is working on normalizing the relations between America and Zimbabwe. And he pointed out that if Zimbabwe is willing to move an inch in looking maybe into other acts, which was AIPA and POSA then, maybe their government is also willing to move. And true to that, government moves on and they repealed POSA, they repealed AIPA. And we asked the ambassador that they used it to say Zimbabwe doesn't walk the talk. Why is it America is playing the exact words that they think Zimbabwe, they allege Zimbabwe is not moving towards. Since they've put to us that if Zimbabwe is to move on repealing POSA and IPA, their government is going to do the same on moving or easing the impact of sanctions on us. But to that effect, you can see that sanctions are still with us, and our skilled workers are still exporting their skills to other countries and impacting negatively to our nation. Around or on the 11th of December, or rather 12th of December 2019, we also held a meeting again with the Ambassador of America, Mr. Brian Nichols, and his staff. We used to hear the Americans say they value the human rights, and for us came to here, we didn't have tents by then. We asked for a tent from them to say, since you say you value human rights, it's our right that we mustn't be exposed to harsh conditions because of sanctions. Why you, Mr. Nichols, can't you show your remorse by donating a tent to us? We wanted to hear from him how best he can assist, or is he actually, does he walk the talk as they talk, as they say? Mr. Ambassador said he cannot aid an enemy. Rather, he proposed that we leave this place, we go and demonstrate in town at Monumtapa or Africa Unity Square, or even at State House. And in return, he wanted to give us, the four of us who were attending that meeting, he wanted to give us a house for each person, and also buy cars for the four of us for a value not more than 100,000. To that effect, we resisted that offer, because it's us, the ordinary, who set our own objectives. It's us, the ordinary, who decided to be here, to camp here for that objective to be met. And at the same time, we cannot abandon a war that we started on our own. We cannot sell out our own country, maybe for us to benefit one or two material things at the expense of the future generations. So we declined to be offered those things. So those are the much engagement that we did with the ambassador. On our side, we also petitioned the American government as ordinary citizens that they used to meet with officials from the government. But you have to see that MPs who are in parliament with the president, whenever they sit, they get allowances. So if they are to talk on the effects of sanctions, it will be like a secondary issue. But the primary effects of sanctions are on us as the ordinary citizens. So we penned our own petition, which we handed over to the ambassador. By now, we are yet to get a response to that effect. Did you have a copy of that petition? Yes, we did. We'll show off to you the copy of that petition. We also petitioned the Parliament of Zimbabwe in view of having the Patriotic Act, which is as good as the act that they have in America. That act, we're proposing that if Parliament may have the push to have a Patriotic Act which will bar every citizen from speaking like he is talking on behalf of the government of Zimbabwe, or is talking on behalf of the ordinary citizens of Zimbabwe, without any permission to that. And we noted in that petition that the effects of sanctions that we are feeling today are as a result of such acts, where we had the people like Tendai Biti, with the people like Westman Mule, with the people like the late former Prime Minister, Mr. Tsvangirai. They went to those countries and lobbied for sanctions. And soon after 2018 elections, Mr. Tendai Biti and Mr. Chamisa also went out and remobilized for sanctions to stay. But we are saying they will be like talking on behalf of other citizens, when in actual fact they will be talking or speaking on their own behalf. So we are saying on that act, it has to be criminal. If any individual goes out or speak from a foreign land or even local to speak like my country has to be punished because they are failing or on this aspect. So to that effect, we are saying it has to be criminalized, and not only on that area, even to journalists. We've got journalists who have got the tendency of writing falsehoods against our nation. We may say we are having a tournament here in Zimbabwe, then one start to write that 25 people died today because of cholera, when in actual fact it will be a lie, but tarnishing the image of the country when the country is actually set to benefit maybe from that tournament. So anything that tarnishes the image of the country has to be penalized. One has to be penalized in line with that, with patriotic. We are not saying one has to be forced to be patriotic. It's a decision that one has to take. But at the same time, we must be patriotic to our own country.
But can I just interject you? Can I just stop you there and ask you? You speak about punishing people who tarnish the image of the country. Let's look at August 1, where people were killed in the streets and they were shot by soldiers, according to the Motlanthe report. Are you worried about such actions by government that tarnish the image of the country?
As an institution, I'm speaking on behalf of the institution Borderlines Against Sanctions. I will be worried if my brother goes to town today. I'm anticipating that in the evening, he will bring bread back home, but I'm told he's dead. People have got the rights, which are enshrined maybe in the Constitution, which are universal: right to life, right to demonstrate. But that right to demonstrate is not absolute. Meaning to say, if one is demonstrating, he mustn't force another person to join his or her own demonstration. If I'm demonstrating, there's no reason why I should burn someone's property. I think, to that effect, it's not only Zimbabwe which has got demonstrations. Currently, we are witnessing demonstrations in South Africa, and there are deaths that occurred from the police. We had demonstrations in America recently, where Mr. Trump had to expose ordinary citizens to the army. So in other words, we are saying the government it's the duty of the government to protect its citizens.
By killing them?
Protecting. You cannot protect by killing.
But it
you
shot,
must protect.
It shot 7 people dead.
There must be continuity to life. At the same time, continuity to life, your continuity to life doesn't mean that you must exist so that you violate other people's rights. So, the Motlanthe Commission gave a report to the effect that there was retraining of the police force that was witnessed, and also adjustment to the some of the legislations, and we also witnessed the repeal of POSA and IPA. So we are not saying people must die for demonstration, for demonstrating. Rather, they must exercise their right. But that right, they must do so observing the other people's rights. They must exercise that right. At the same time, they mustn't violate.
My question to you is, are you worried about actions that are done by government that will tarnish the image of the country?
Every government, universal, has to look after its citizens. Instead, they must offer, every government must offer services to the people that shows growth, not that eliminates them. That's why we are also worried in the elimination of George Floyd in America. That's why we are also worried about people, the bombings of America in Afghanistan today in Syria. That's why we are also worried by the people who were bombed in Moyo, by these white people.
Are you worried about anything that has happened to your fellow citizens post-independence?
We are equally worried, not only in Zimbabwe, but even in Syria, like I mentioned.
Now, I want to bring you to Zimbabwe because you are demonstrating on sanctions that are affecting Zimbabweans. So I am asking you about Zimbabwe.
We are broad alliance against sanctions, not a broad alliance against sanctions in Zimbabwe. Even if sanctions are in America, we are worried. In the same way, George Floyd was sanctioned his right to life and he died by being choked. Every citizen deserves to live. Be it in America, in South Africa. We are also worried by the happenings in South Africa. But we never witnessed the Britain, we never witnessed Canada, we never witnessed the America issuing statements in the same way they did. If it is arrested today, they tweet like he is dead. They tweet like he's kidnapped. They tweet like his human rights are being violated. When in actual fact, that very person would have violated the laws of the country. But once that person is arrested, they start tweeting, democracy in Zimbabwe has to go this way. they are like they are the doctors of democracy, when in actual fact they are the violators of that very democracy. Why are they silent in the happenings of South Africa? Why are they silent in the happenings of Syria? So you see how high hypocrite they are. I think they mustn't be referees in on our national things, or they mustn't lecture us on how we should run the affairs of Zimbabwe. Rather, they are observers. They must advise, not decision makers. So that's our position.
So if you are beating up your own child, you do not expect your neighbor to ask you to stop being brutal on your own child.
My neighbor may advise me, no, my brother, you mustn't continue beating your child like this. As a result, he might die, that child. But
and if you continue,
if I continue, we have got arbitrators. In this case, your direct example, we've got institutions that see that there is peace between what maybe that mother and the child. We've got the police. We have got the continental and the international institutions, like we've got the SADC, we've got the United Nations, where they meet. If ever America have got issues with Zimbabwe, they must take the issues to the United Nations, where America is an equal participant to Zimbabwe. Having taken the issues there, then this issue of sanctions Zimbabwe must come from United Nations, not from America. That's why we say these sanctions are illegal. They never tested the signatory or signatures of what? Of the United Nations.
But how do you say they're illegal? Because honestly, the United States has a right to decide who it does business with and who it doesn't want to do business with. Because it's its country. They didn't force Zambia to put sanctions on Zimbabwe. They have said they are not going to deal with A, B, C, D in their country. Is it not their right?
True to that fact, we have got fundamental human rights on the other side, which another right, it's the right of association. And those rights of association knows no boundary. I have got the right to associate with an American. So it would be a very illegal for America now to sanction me not to associate with an American that I want to do business with. But as it is, I cannot associate myself with the PayPal. If ever I try to associate that institution by trying to log in so that I receive money from there, at the end of the day I'm told your country is under sanction. What is a country? We are the country, we are the citizens. So that becomes what? Illegal. Those barriers or those statements that bars me from operating those people in America becomes what? Illegal. I've got the right of association, which is a fundamental human right that I must enjoy. I'm failing to enjoy that right because America put those what measures in place. Going to America today to be like something else where I need to apply for a visa, a lot of things. Oh, you want
but it's their country.
Yes, it's their country. But
and if they say, for instance, if I say I don't want you in my house, you can't insist that you have a freedom of associating with me when I don't want. I mean, does that make sense?
That is too personal. But if ever I feel like I must associate with you, then I must approach institutions that to seek redress as to why you are barring me from meeting with you. And we are saying your displeasure in associating with me will be a violation to my right because I've got the right to associate with you. And at the same time, you have the right to associate with people whom you want to associate with. So it will be a violation on your side again to associate with me when in actual fact you don't want to associate with me. That's what you are saying. But in this case, we are saying they are taking this as a block to say we are not associating with Zimbabwe. Why are they not moving to say, okay, like in their Zidera, they put names to say, however, there are individuals who are violating what? Human rights. They put those names in black and white. Robert Mugabe, Mnangagwa, so who's to the end. My name is not there. I'm Calvin Chitsung. You go to Zidera, you won't find my name. You go to Zidera, you won't find your name. Go apply PayPal today. It will tell you because you're Zimbabwean, you can't access that service. Get me right. So to that effect, it's very clear that It's not Mugabe, it's not Mnangagwa who is under sanctions, but you, the ordinary person, is what is under sanctions. Because as it is, Mugabe died in Singapore. He could manage to fly out of Zimbabwe, get medication. You can't. You can't even afford to pay at Pare, government institution, probably. Or if you happen to pay, you get a prescription. From that prescription, go to their pharmacy. There's no medication. From there, you need to go to private institution. From that private institution, they charge you 500 US. You don't have 20 bonds in your pocket. So at the end of the day, go back home, you die. So we sanctioned. The effects of these sanctions are directly coming to what? To us. So it's our duty as ordinary citizens to fight these sanctions. And at the same time, if ever they are to adjust, maybe to target that this person who is under that list mustn't fly out of Zimbabwe. That person is not a president because he was pushed by a scotch cat there by his family. No. In Zimbabwe, we exercised our democratic right. 2018. Elections were done. People voted. There was a dispute of those elections. They tested the court. Outcome came. And as a result, we had one president. We have one president. That very president knows what's happening in Mzaraban through the MP from ZANU-PF. He knows what's happening in Westgate through presentation of Joanna Mamombe in Westgate. So he's controlling across the political divide. And he must take those challenges to those continental sittings. But if that person is sanctioned to go there, then at the end of the day, he is not the person who is sanctioned. Who is sanctioned is sanctioned he sanctioned the very person, the member of parliament from Mzaraban, of which that member of parliament from Mzaraban won't be putting across his own words, but he's taking from what? From the ground.
But do you understand that the president of this country can attend any UN meeting, even in the United States?
Yes, he can attend with 40-kilometer radius. That's where he is expected only to travel. But he has got business in 41-kilometer radius out of that radius. We don't want that boundaries.
What business would he have?
Personally, I need the president to meet with the shop that is into pumps. That manufacture pumps, water pumps. Because we need a pump here. I think we will show you how struggling we are doing in trying to water our garden. But I wanted the president, when he goes to America, to go to the next shop, which is 41 kilometers away from the UN headquarters. But he can't. He is limited. So he is not the president who is limited. I am the one who is limited. The president is not in need of that pump. I am the one who is in need of that pump.
But you can go to China. You can go to Russia. You can go to Belarus. Why particularly US?
I have the right to choose. That's why I said
they also have the right to choose. So why do you want to violate their right to assert your right? That's my question.
That's my choice. That's my choice. It mustn't be compromised.
But they their choice also. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Not from that.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Their choice also must not be compromised, in as much as yours must not be compromised. So how do you put a balance there?
Right. So if they are compromising my choice because of sanctions that they are saying they are targeting that list, it makes now clear that the sanctions are not targeting that list because they are affecting me. You see, so that's why we are saying the sanction must what?
Now I'm understanding what you are saying, that the sanctions are affecting you, and I agree with you. And my question is, why do you want to force them to deal with you? Because they have made a choice that they don't want.
Thank you, Mr. Mchang, for acknowledging that the sanctions are affecting me. They are affecting you, like you rightly put. At the same time, like I said, we have got fundamental human rights which allows me to associate with whoever I want. It's not the Americans who must decide to me that I must look east. I must go to China only, when in actual fact I want to buy from America.
Yeah, I heard that point. My question to you is just very simple. Are you denying them a choice to decide that they don't want to deal with you?
That decision to deny me is a violation of my right.
And that decision for you to deny them their own choice not to associate with you is a violation of their right.
In which way? In which way am I violated of that right? Am I violating maybe their rights by associating with them?
Because they don't want. That's the point.
Go and scrutinize ZDERA. ZDERA give instructions to institutions that operate in America to say, you must not trade with what? Zimbabwe. It's not those companies that are saying we don't want to trade with what? With Zimbabwe. So it's either they choose to operate with the Zimbabweans or they go out of what? Of America. So they are not only affecting or violating our rights, they are only affecting the rights of the businesses in Americans because they have got interest in operating in what? In transacting with the Zimbabweans. So
for instance,
not only violating
you put a proposal,
issues, but rather them.
You put a proposal of the Patriotic Act.
Yes.
The Patriotic Act seeks to bar Zimbabweans from talking to foreign government if they are not part of government.
No. They are not barring Zimbabweans from talking to Americans or to anyone or to a foreigner. They are barring Zimbabweans to speak on behalf of the government of Zimbabwe without authority.
Who has ever, any normal government would see me speaking and say I'm speaking on behalf of government when I don't work for government?
Visit Logan Act and see how it was enacted. It was enacted because Mr. Logan had gone out of America and negotiate on behalf of America when in actual fact was not representing the interests of Americans. It was his own interest which were perceived to be the interests of Americans. And at the end of the day, they affected what? The Americans. In the same way, individuals went to America and negotiate for sanctions, which they think they may score their political interests, but at the end of the day, they're affecting us.
Are you certainly convinced that the Americans or any normal government would impose sanctions on a country because an individual has asked for them? In your mind of minds, in your heart of hearts, are you convinced?
That would be barbaric if any government or any person might agree to that. But rather, those who did that, they did not go there and present their personal case. Rather, they were political leaders of another party. Meaning to say they were, or they are still, opinion leaders, opinion polls to their political party. They've got a certain constituents they represent. They had an agenda to put. And they
sanctions were brought in the time by Morgan Tsvangirai was there.
They are only aiding a political party.
No. When Morgan Tsvangirai was there, that's when the sanctions were introduced. When there was the inclusive government, Tsvangirai called for the removal of sanctions, and they were not removed. So, do you in your hearts of hearts believe that these sanctions are there because they have been called for, or that the United States of America has its interest, its own interest, that it is pushing through those sanctions?
Rightfully, America has got its interest here in Zimbabwe. Remember, we repossessed our land. Some of the Americans were beneficiaries from our own land, our resources. Americans developed the way it is, not because they got the resources. Because they came here, loot our resources, they developed America in the same way Britain did. So, to that effect, they've got too much interest here in Zimbabwe, these Americans. We used to see people celebrating that America donated such millions of Zimbabwe to maybe to our country, or they donated through maybe whichever project to us on our own analysis. That donation they do to us, it will be around 0.00001% of what they loot and what they continue to loot through other means. Americans, they've got a lot of interest. Like you said, Mr. Tsvangirai, yes, once or more times during the inclusive government, also called for removal of what? Of sanctions. He called for something that he lobbied for. Took a leave from Guatemala. Opposition in Guatemala also negotiated for sanctions. When they came into power, they negotiated for the removal of sanctions. That never be. And up to now, it's still being affected by what? By those sanctions. That's exactly the hypocrisy that Mr. Tsvangirai did. We are happy that Honorable Vincent Tsvangirai from Glenview, when he appeared before Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs, he rightly put it to the members of Parliament that it's clear, and to him, the sanctions are affecting the ordinary what? Citizens. He even called for removal of sanctions. He said that in Parliament. Having said that in Parliament, the following day, Mr. Honorable Tsvangirai Vincent received a letter from Champton Wendy, whereby he said you must withdraw what you said in Parliament, because that statement you put in Parliament wasn't a patriotic position. True to that fact, he withdrew. But we are not sure at what position did he withdraw his statement that sanctions are affecting the ordinary citizens. Maybe, and clearly he did that under duress. You also need to enjoy that parliamentary seat and also the allowances in Parliament, and he had to withdraw. But Mr. Tsvangirai said sanctions are affecting the ordinary citizens in Parliament, where he is a member of Parliament, he is a member of that portfolio, and he took oath. So we took it seriously that sanctions are affecting across the what? Across the country, regardless of political affiliation, regardless of race or color.
The battle and the seesaw on these sanctions continues. SADC and the African Union has also joined Zimbabwe in calling for the removal of what the Zimbabwean government has said are illegal sanctions. We follow the story. We seek to understand how, when, and if the sanctions will be removed. We will also keep an eye on how, when, and if the broader alliance against sanctions will leave this place, or will grow and stay here as the battle continues. My name is Blessed Mhlanga, Dara B for Heart and Soul TV and News Current Affairs Department. Thank you for joining us. Until next time. Let's bust sanctions.
Janaka kudza kusaina masanction. Visawo, visawo, visawo. Visawo, 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 visawo masanction. Kwira ndege mchinokumbira masanction. Kwira ndege mchinokumbira masanction. Manjameno, ameno, manjameno, ameno iko. Manjameno, ameno, manjameno. Paite dzora moyo. Paite dzora moyo. Janaka kudza kusaina masanction. Janaka kudza kunyora uchidaiso. Visawo, 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 visawo masanction. Visawo, visawo, visawo. Kwira ndege mchinokumbira masanction. Kwira ndege mchinokumbira masanction. Manjameno, ameno, manjameno, ameno iko. Manjameno, ameno, manjameno, ameno iko. Kanya ndo kanyaira, kanya matope. 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 Kanya ndo kanyaira. Chiko chiko chandingagona kunatsa Biden yari mwanorigiyo ndizvakawo chiko chandingagona kunatsa Biden yari mwanorigiyo ndizvakawo kanya ndokanyaira ganya matope kanya ndokanyaira kanya ndokanyaira ganya matope kanya
Zimbabwe, kuna sendi Peter, kuna sendi Luke, kuna sendi John, kuna sendi Martha, sendi Chaminuka iri kupi, yereva pambe pumi, sendi Kaguvi iri kupi, yereva pambe pumi, sendi Nehanda iri kupi, yereva pambe pumi, sendi Takawira iri kupi, yereva pambe pumi, sendi Chitepo iri kupi, yereva pambe pumi, yerera yoka munzwe, sanu chiwororo, yorwa ondoka chimurenga, kupetisa chindunduma, yerera yoka munzwe, sanu chiwororo, yorwa ondoka chimurenga, kupetisa chindunduma, wondoma iona, yereva pambe pumi, wondoma iona, yereva pambe pumi, yere baba, yere vapambe pumi, maruza, maruza, maruza vapambe pumi, maruza, maruza.